Well, good morning. I'm Wenda Millard, and I'm redefining power. We're going to talk on this panel about how personal connections have changed, or if they've changed, in a hyper-connected world. And I have the privilege of having a very, very distinguished panel this morning. Gayle King is here, and given her current roles as co-host of CBS This Morning, and certainly editor-at-large of the Oprah magazine, and her long career as the host of a syndicated daytime program, Gayle is a true expert in human connectivity. And Kathryn Minshew, one of my personal favorite entrepreneurs. Kathryn is with us today to share her very special insights into how the next generation of professionals will be game changers in connectivity. And Sweeney, of course, she is co-chair, as you know, of Disney Media Networks, and she has a very special lens through which to view the changing dynamics of how companies connect with their consumers and their customers. And Susan Wojcicki. Susan, I didn't see you bring in your Google Glass this morning. Oh, yeah. I was really hoping that was the lens that you would be looking through, but I'm sure that...
I'll have to go back and get them.
There you go. Even without those, she will have some very, very keen insights into how mobile and other digital platforms are creating new ways to communicate and disrupting some of our old. So I wanted, first of all, to kind of level set the conversation, and since our purpose here is primarily to explore whether or not personal connections are in fact being redefined given technology, and I don't want to use that as an assumption, just the question. So let's just ask, how do you define the term personal connection? And anybody's ball.
I still like face-to-face connection still. I feel like the old lady in the room. I said to Wenda when we were coming out here, I don't think this is a good panel for me because I'm so technically challenged. She said, that's good. Talk about that. Well, I don't want to look like the old lady in the room, but just this morning on the news, we were talking about something, and I said, well, I set my VCR this morning, and darned if, I know, darned if on Twitter, people are very mean on Twitter. They are mean on Twitter. I got a Twitter yesterday from somebody that said, Gayle, your dress looks like you're wearing silly string. You look ridiculous.
Hey, Gayle,
thank you so much.
Just a little help. You actually got a tweet.
A tweet.
A tweet.
See, that's what I'm talking about. They said, Gayle, hello, it's now 2013. Nobody has a VCR. And then I'm explaining to this person, I actually DVR'd it. And then I'm thinking, why am I explaining to this total stranger? So I am. I mean, you get all caught up in it, and then you have to go, stop, rewind. But I am so technically challenged. But for me, personal connection I still like face-to-face, Wenda. I still like picking up a phone. I still like writing a note. I know that it's easier. You know, I've just gotten the iPhone, and I'm trying to make the adjustment to that. But I was in a car the other day with 5 other women. We all like each other. We all wanted to have a conversation. And you look, and we're all 5 on our stuff. And we all came together, but we're all 5 checking things, and it's only going to be a second. And one person starts it, like you. I'm just teasing. One person starts it, and then before you know it, we all sort of slip into it. So for me, face-to-face conversation is still my idea of personal connection.
Good. Look at that. You get a lot of support here. I told you not to feel bad.
I do.
Anybody else? How do you define personal connection? Kathryn?
I think face-to-face is my favorite form of personal connection, but I feel like
hear a but.
It's exactly. It's become finding something within yourself and recognizing it in another person. And the easiest way to do that is obviously you can look in someone's eyes, shake their hand, have that kind of in-person focused attention. But I do think for many people now that it can be really inspirational to have the opportunity to make a personal connection with someone that you wouldn't have access to in your own life. And obviously, the internet is one of the leading ways, whether it's following someone on social media, watching videos of someone that you aspire to talk about their life, because I think that sort of personal connection, while it would be even more powerful face-to-face, if you don't have the opportunity to do that, it's still an incredible opportunity. I think we're seeing just the beginning of how that's going to change the way people think about their own personal opportunities and trajectories.
Susan and Ann, anything to add there?
Well, I think it's, yes, I'm a face-to-facer too.
Yes.
And that is I think will always be my favorite, but I think it's not only about connecting, but it's also about reconnecting. If we look at what Facebook has done to our lives and our ability to find people again, and also find people who have similar interests or people who are, their own recommendation engine, I think it's given us a new take on not only relationships, but a new take on ourselves, because we've been able to broaden, by meeting people that we wouldn't have otherwise have met just in our day-to-day.
Well, so I also love the face-to-face, but what I found is that by having all the different mechanisms that we have now to connect, we can actually stay in touch with people a lot better than we ever could have in the past. But the twist I would also add that I think is totally new, that's not face-to-face, but also is really powerful, is the ability to connect with people who share some kind of common interest, like on different support groups or different boards. And like when you think about that, like you might have some kind of very personal issue, a medical issue or something you're concerned about, and in the past you wouldn't have had a mechanism to go and to really talk to people about that, or it would have been really hard. And now the ability to go and connect online, communicate about probably some of like our, the things that are concerning us the most, and share that with people. Maybe people we've never met, but it's still a very personal connection. And so I think there's definitely change, and they're both really powerful.
So one of the words that people seem to enjoy today is authenticity and the importance of being authentic. Does technology afford that to a lesser degree, a greater degree? Does it have any effect on authenticity at all?
I think technology is the new acid test, because I think people can spot a phony on Twitter, you can spot a phony on Facebook, and one of the things when our company first started using Facebook, the best piece of advice we got was to be authentic and don't try to go out there and sell, because you will be absolutely thrown out by the community. So look, and a lot of companies learned the hard way, but I think that authenticity is really something that people get a very good sense of, depending on who you follow on Twitter. You can tell when somebody else is tweeting for them. You can just feel it. You can tell when it's not their voice. You can tell when it's, not their own 40 characters. You can tell.
Also, I think the cycle is so fast with technology that things happen and people expect you to respond right away. And so it really has to be authentic. It's not like you can always think about it and have somebody else write it. No, you have to think about it and you have to respond now. And I think I definitely agree with Anne. The audience knows, is that you or is that not you?
Well, some of the authenticity also comes out with the mean, because people are reacting to it. Yeah. So I think I think that's right, and I'm not necessarily sure that it's intuitive that technology really will show a lack of authenticity or not, but I think it's true.
Well, I think it's almost sometimes easier to be inauthentic when you're writing something. Sometimes what you're saying gets lost in translation. People don't understand your tone. They don't see your facial expression. They don't see your body language. And I think sometimes you can totally BS someone with writing. That's why they have that whole catfish movement where somebody pretends to be a totally different person. It just happened to Manti Te'o, who I first thought was guilty. Now I sort of believe him. But I mean, when he was totally taken by this girl. And, in the age of where you can Skype and do FaceTime, you went that long and fell in love with someone who you've never seen, touched, or smelled. But I see that can happen. Mm-hmm. And that was totally inauthentic. So I really think it depends on who the person is, if you have a knowledge of the person. But I think that if you didn't know who I was and I was just a stranger introducing myself, I think I could create a whole profile that would be seemingly inauthentic, that would have nothing based in reality. So I think it depends. And it worries me that things can get lost in translation because you don't either know my sense of humor or you've never met me. And I think that we have to be very careful with that.
Yeah, or worse, your iPhone decides
they
that
change
it's
it.
going to go spell on its own. And you've
yes.
sent a message that is really
I've had a
crazy.
couple embarrassing things with that, Anne, where you've sent it before you've checked it and you want to say to the person, really, I'm smart. What I meant to say was, I know I sounded like I was incoherent and stupid with 2 O's, but I really understood it. And sometimes the spell check, that's the thing with the iPhone, and before you can correct it, it changes
off.
it. It changes it.
It always tries to correct the spelling of my name. And
Yes,
so
I'll
sometimes
bet.
it's signed Wendy, and it's like
Yeah.
self-identity crisis.
Yes.
Okay. Kathryn, your comments on authenticity, is this important? Can you see it, feel it, touch it in a digital world?
I absolutely think you can. And, you know, to me, it's almost like that famous Supreme Court justice quote about obscenity. You know, I know it when I see it. I think that there's a real difference between people who are authentic online, between brands that portray themselves authentically online. And I think one of the big magnifying effects of social media is that when you do have that authenticity, people recognize how valuable it is, and you have an amplification of that message. If you know, for example, in the past, if you had an individual who had a really fantastic encounter with a larger company, they might tell their neighbors, they might tell a few people, and that would be great. But now there's the ability to, you know, to essentially give a megaphone to that message. I think the downside is, as with any new opportunity, people are starting to work to figure out how it can be engineered. But I don't think that takes away the power of the opportunity in the first place.
So, technology or not, as leaders here on this panel, what are a couple of the most important things that you do to establish effective personal communications? Are there things that matter more to you? Are there things that connect you more immediately, more importantly, more intimately to the people around you?
Well, one of the things we've done at Disney over the last couple of years is develop apps for our Disney Channel, our Disney XD, our Disney Junior, our ABC Family. And we were doing some research with kids on the Disney Junior app. And we were filming them in their homes and in focus groups, little kids with their moms. And it was absolutely fascinating to me because we've always believed, we've always been platform agnostic. You can get us on cable, you can get us on satellite, you can get us on your computer. But to see a kid holding one of our brands on an iPad was honestly a bit of a relationship. Because we've always believed that media is becoming increasingly more personal. And it's more personal because you can hold it in your hand. You don't have to run home and watch television at a certain time, or DVR it, or TiVo it, or do any of that stuff. Right now, it's just accessible. And I was watching this little girl with her mom, and the mother said, I'm astounded at my kids' behavior. They're watching Disney Junior on my phone. Now, something the size of our hands. And she said, look at them. And there's the little girl curled up with her brother in the corner of a couch, almost hugging each other, watching a show on the phone. And what was even more interesting was that there was a large screen TV right in back of them. And they never even thought to turn it on, but I thought, you know, it has made their experience with one of our shows a lot more intimate. They're holding it a lot closer. And then one little girl had the best line of all, which was, we asked her why she liked it. Why do you like watching the show on your iPad and not on television? And she said, because I can curl up with it on the couch. And I thought, well, boy, never thought I'd hear that one. But I think it's that physically
it's more intimate. You know, it's a very interesting, you know, so much in the digital space is not intuitive. You know, there was a theory, you know, that always the larger screen would prevail. So if you had a big television screen, that's what the consumer would choose. Something, you know, tablet-like, and then the last thing would be the smartphone. Not at all. But I think that's a very interesting point. It's creating a kind of intimacy that a big screen wouldn't necessarily get to you.
Right.
So what about other things that we do in this environment to connect personally? I think that's a great one.
Yeah. I think vulnerability is really important, and I see this a lot in the technology space because you know, I've been an entrepreneur for around 3 years now, about a year and a half with my latest business, which is the Muse. And I think when I was getting started, I would listen to people talk about how they built companies or, you know, how they acquired users. And often the stories that were put out there, at least the ones that I remember hearing in the early days, were, you know, they seemed like these overnight successes. They were these beautiful stories where they thought, oh, you know, I just had this brilliant idea come out of my head like Athena, fully formed, and I execute on it, and we had a little problem, but we beat it, and now we're huge. Right. And, you know, for me, that wasn't my experience at all. My first business failed in a really kind of very painful personal way. And now that we've started having success, I've found that being very open about that failure and a lot of the other indecisions and the little problems along the way is one of the best ways to establish that personal connection, especially if you don't necessarily have the benefit of having one-to-one relationships with people. And I also think that's part of the power of maybe making people realize that they too can follow in the footsteps and they don't have to get it all right to be successful. In fact, they can fail terribly and spectacularly and still aspire to,
There's that honesty and authenticity theme again, really. Yeah, Susan.
I would just say, I think the fact that we can actually now create video so easily has become an incredibly powerful tool for us to communicate as individuals, but also for us to connect with people, like as leaders, with people all over. And recently I was just struck with how easy it is to create video because my son created a video in his bedroom about how to survive in the wilderness. Now, my son has spent like 1 day in the wilderness.
How old is he?
And he, I think when he made this video, he was like 11 years old. And so he created this with really no tools. I mean, you can create a video now on your phone. You can upload it to YouTube. And he had thousands of viewers watching his video. And, so, I mean, that's just one example. But also, at Google, we've been doing some Hangouts, which is like a way to connect with people and have people all over be able to connect and have the same kind of video experience. And we did one with Obama, and there were people, who were able to ask him questions. And there was one person who asked the question, like, why is my husband not able to get a job? And Obama said, well, why don't you send me the resume and I'll look into it? And
wow, I saw that.
It was amazing that she had that opportunity, and then he had to respond real time. So that's also back to the authenticity that it created an experience that wouldn't have happened in the past.
No, I actually saw that. I thought that was amazing. I think about, as I said, I'm technically challenged, but I just got the thing at Time Warner Cable. Do you know that you can get an app that allows you to record things if you're not at home? And I understand that this has been going on for quite some time. So, because I had left the house, Ann, and I wanted to see Diane's interview with Amanda Knox. And I said, let me try out this handy dandy app. And I recorded it, and I got to put it and watch it when I got home. I was very excited about that.
Good job.
But we just had, it was very good. we had somebody on CBS the other day. Her name is Colleen Hoover, who's a mom who was living in a trailer with 3 boys, 8, 12, and 10. So little kids. And when the kids would go to sleep, she just started writing online a book. And the first line was, Kel unloaded the first 2 boxes at U-Haul. And that was her first line of her book. And she said she was just writing it for fun with her mother, for her mother. She wrote a couple of chapters. Her mother liked it. She showed it to her boss, who was a woman. She liked it. And she said, why don't you write some more chapters? So before she knew it, she had written a whole book. And she put it online. And 5 people got it. The word started spreading, and now she has written all these bestsellers. She self-published it, and now the publishers are coming to her and want to make movies out of this. And the boss that she was writing for is now working for her. So when she was I thought this was so cool. She was in the studio the other day, and she goes, that's my former boss. The former boss is there. Here, let me take the picture. Now that all happened just sitting in her trailer. I said, are you still living in a trailer? She's not living in a trailer. She now has a house. Her husband was a truck driver. He's now working with her, all from sitting at home. She said, I always knew that I loved writing. And I marvel at people that can figure out a way to do that. I do. I marvel at how they can figure that out. Because I have an assistant who, that app, that Time Warner, she put it on my phone. The Find Your iPhone If It's Lost, she put it on my phone. When I need music, Ariana, she put it on my phone. And I'm told that all this stuff is very easy to do. One of these days, I will actually sit down and actually figure out how to do it. But I marvel that this woman is now a best-selling author.
Well, I think what's interesting about that also is look at all
It's
of the
authentic.
connections that she
Yes.
has made with her own family,
Yep.
but now a much broader one.
Yes.